I'll get into what we're going to go through. I'll just quick note here. I am not the most technically astute individual on earth, so hopefully this will run as smooth as I think it will. If you notice me looking away, I'm trying to operate two screens here, so hopefully that will be smooth and work well. But if you see me looking away, it's because I'm looking to one side of my desk instead of directly into the camera. So these are all the challenges of the working from your basement world. It is comfortable down here, but it is in my basement. So just as a quick introduction, my name is Graham Little, and I work with the Insurance Bureau of Canada. I'm actually located in New Brunswick. I work out of our Halifax office, but I live in New Brunswick in the southern part of the province, just outside of St. John, in an area called Grand Bay. And I cover off predominantly New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island, but we are an Atlantic office, so I do also dabble in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland as well, but my preference is to work with our New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island stakeholders and government groups. I'm our manager of government relations, and that means that I advocate and work with the insurance industry on behalf of our members, but I also do a lot of stakeholder outreach, and I think that the Tourism Industry Association of Prince Edward Island, they've been a good partner for us for in the last little while. We've reached out to them on a number of occasions, and so it's good to be here today and to walk you through some of the ins and outs of commercial insurance. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen, and let's hope this works. See here. Let's see here. Is that full screen for you on your end?
I think if you put it into the actual slideshow, it would shift over. We can just see the PowerPoint software.
All right, because I have it full screen on one side here. Let's see. See what I was talking about with the. Let's see. I think. Share this one.
That works.
That's better?
Perfect.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
See, we're already off to a good start because we've solved our first problem. So, who is the Insurance Bureau of Canada? I guess as I've just let you know what my name is and my role here in Atlantic Canada is. We are the industry association for about 90% of Canada's property and casualty insurance market. I always find it, I guess, helpful sometimes to point out who we don't represent, and it's of no slights to those industries, but we're not health insurance, we're not life insurance, we're not medical insurance. We are just property and casualty, and so what that means is that we represent the companies that sell business insurance, that sell, in this case, commercial insurance, auto insurance, home insurance, and those would be our members. And so 90% of those in the country that sell those products are members of IBC. We also do a lot of outreach for consumers. We do a lot of outreach as it pertains to financial literacy, because insurance is a financial product. We always think it's important to make sure that consumers understand what it is they're buying, how it gets sold, and what the market looks like. So just a quick overview of the presentation I'm going to walk you through today. I guess at first we'll go through what the current commercial state of the market is. There have been a lot of difficulties, I suppose, in the commercial side of insurance over the last number of years. And I'm sure some of you have questions and stories and concerns about that. So hopefully I can walk you through what's going on in the market first. And then we'll talk about some of the steps that the insurance industry is taking to try and rectify the current situation as much as they can. We'll talk about what businesses can do. We'll talk about how IBC and our members can help. We're going to talk about what we think governments can do to help as well. I'll go through some of the resources we have available, and then we can take some questions. And I would say probably at the onset that I suspect that most of the folks on the call today are from a very diverse group of businesses. I know the Tourism Industry Association represents a number of different sectors within the tourism and hospitality sector. So I suspect I won't have answers for every individual question, but what I probably can do is help you find answers. So hopefully that's where we'll end up. So the current state of the market. IBC understands that businesses, especially on the tourism and hospitality side of things, are facing some really extraordinary challenges recently. The current pandemic has made some economic situations that are, this word gets used too much likely, but unprecedented. And it is unprecedented, and I'm sure many of you are feeling that firsthand. When the bubble was open last year, I think it helped everyone out a little bit, but it certainly wouldn't have been what we would normally see in a regular tourism season. There's no easy solutions to some of the problems we're seeing today. There are no silver bullets, but the insurance markets, like all markets, they rely on a supply, demand, and a willingness for risk. And so when the willingness for risk is low, the market tightens, or as we say, it hardens. However, we are trying to find some creative solutions to help operators across business sectors, because we know that the economic benefits and keeping the economy running during this pandemic is absolutely essential. I think, when you think about a big picture, governments are spending and running record deficits and record debts, and as well they probably should to combat what we're currently going through. But they need taxation dollars to do that, and a good portion of their revenue comes from individuals spending money at establishments like all of you run. So the current state of the commercial insurance industry. So we'll rewind a little bit here just so I can keep everyone on track, but mostly myself. Prior to 2020, Canada's commercial insurance industry was facing some challenges that came from several contributing factors. We had an extended period of weather-related claims that were both more severe and more frequent than we had in the past. Certain lines of businesses, insurer losses were increasingly impacted by weather and claims. And so the difficult market conditions for insurer investments. And the investment side of things I'll touch on a little bit later, but that is essentially how insurers are able to manage the money that people pay them in premiums so that there is always money available to pay out claims when they need to be. So we have increase in claims combined with the market pressures caused some insurers to reconsider the types of risk they were willing to underwrite. That led to a reduction in supply, or in other words, a reduction in the amount of risk insurers can reasonably take on while keeping in mind the legal obligations they have to existing policies. So this picture here on your screen kind of walks you through very simply what some of you are probably seeing and feeling, but the impact on insurer losses and reserves and a tightening in the market and an unwillingness to take on new types of risk has caused some rate increases in certain sectors. So just a quick look at Prince Edward Island's commercial property claims, direct claims incurred over the last about 20 years. This is kind of an interesting graph because it does offer us a bit of a window into what's gone on over the last 20 years, which is a pretty good time span to look at. And it's pretty self-evident here, I think, if you look at it. We can see that the claims in PEI have been trending upwards quite substantially over the last 20 years. And this is for all commercial property, including the tourism and hospitality sectors. The average direct claim incurred over the last 5 years was just over $20 million, $20.5 million, compared to the previous 5 years where it was 15.9, and the 5 years before that where it was closer to 11 million. This steady growth in claims and that large spike you see in 2019, that was Hurricane Dorian in large part that contributed to that. An interesting sort of historical aspect that we saw with Dorian is that while it wasn't as big or as intense a storm as Hurricane Juan was back in the early 2000s, the damage that we saw claims within the insurance industry came from almost all parts of the island, as opposed to several smaller clusters. Juan would have hit Charlottetown particularly hard, and several other places where winds were, well over 100 kilometers an hour for a sustained period. But Dorian seemed to hit larger swaths of the island, both in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI, and seemed to do a lot more damage overall. So kind of an interesting phenomena there where it wasn't as hard of a storm, but it actually caused significantly more damage in a lot more areas in Prince Edward Island. So I guess one of the not so subtle messages that we see in a graph like this is that as claims increase over the last 20 years, so have rates. So the hard market that I referred to earlier, just to reiterate that, we call it a hard market when there is a limited amount of or appetite for risk within the insurers. And so different insurance companies will decide that they are far better at writing certain types of risk, and others will get out of certain markets altogether. And so when there is a limited amount of supply in the market, we see rates increase. So, that always poses the question, when will we return to a softer market when there are, many insurers competing for many different types of business? We see the current market continuing well into 2021. And I'll get into a little bit more of the economics of that in a couple of slides. But for the immediate future, the current trends are probably going to continue. So I will apologize at the risk of putting everyone on the presentation today to sleep, but I do want to go through some of the economics of the current market, just for your understanding. IBC commissioned a report by Deloitte to gain a better understanding of how the challenging market conditions are impacting Canadian insurers and commercial clients. So the Deloitte report, which is available, and I can send a link to it later if that interests anybody. But it's called The State of the Canadian Commercial Insurance and Casualty Insurance Market. It was released in early 2020, and the report states the Canadian commercial insurance market became a hard market in 2019. And I think that's it's interesting to understand that, because we actually saw a contraction in the appetite for risk before the pandemic started. And what we have seen since is that from about late February and March of 2020 on, that contraction continued. And so it has the pandemic has essentially exacerbated problem that we saw coming earlier before, that it was a worldwide issue. And so now we're sort of feeling the effects of two things happening at once. One of the conclusions in the Deloitte report is that the challenges affecting the availability of commercial insurance are complex. There are global macroeconomic factors and ongoing COVID-19 pandemic compounding the issue. Years of inefficient or insufficient underwriting profitability driven by rising claims costs and low returns on investment led to an overall decline between 2015 and 2019. Just a brief quote from the report. It says the uncertainty in global macroeconomic conditions reduces insurers' ability to rely on investment income to achieve profitability. Insurers tend to respond through greater hesitation to take on risks that might negatively impact their underwriting results, further reducing the market's capacity. Additionally, uncertain macroeconomic conditions reduce global investors' willingness to provide capital, creating further capacity constraints. Deloitte said insurers, intermediaries, and clients must prepare themselves for a continuation of the current hard market conditions, and that the Canadian economic recovery is forecast to rebound more substantially by 2022 at the earliest. After that point, by the time we head into 2022, Deloitte expects economic impacts on the insurance market will be reduced, which is likely to result in increased underwriting capacity. And when we say increased underwriting capacity, we say we're talking about an increase in appetite for different types of risk, and hopefully that will lead to more competitive rates as well. However, action is still required in the short term, and Canada's insurers and intermediaries need to find creative solutions to ensure that Canadian businesses can access the insurance they need. So the next slide here, and this will be news to nobody who is in the tourism and hospitality industries, but it is a quick look at the employment that we have seen over the last 12, 18 months. Sorry, I just had to have a drink there. So, you know, employment in the tourism sector has plummeted over the last year, and I certainly don't need to remind anybody of that. According to the Tourism Human Resource Canada's Tourism Employment Tracker, PEI's tourism sector has been significantly impacted by COVID-19. And this graph shows the total number of individuals employed in PEI's tourism sector for each month of 2020 as it compares to the same month in 2019. It's important to look at the gap between the 2019 employment and those representing 2020. And I guess we have the first 2 months of 2021 as well. Certainly by June, July, August, September, we saw a fairly natural increase in employment. I think some of that was likely buoyed in part by the Atlantic bubble. Hopefully, and I'm in New Brunswick right now, where we probably have some of the worst COVID effects happening in Atlantic Canada right now. We've been able to manage it somewhat efficiently, but I don't think quite as well as Prince Edward Island, who is probably a national, if not a world leader in managing the pandemic over the last number of months. I did see I think it was a press release from Premier King this morning that he's still expecting the Atlantic bubble to open on time. I think for those of us in certain parts of New Brunswick, we certainly hope that happens. But all of that said, the economic impact of the pandemic on the hospitality and tourism sector has been significant, if not more than many other sectors. Quick look at the overall economic impact. This is a Canada-wide look at the tourism GDP. And again, you can see the downturn in this specific sector has been significant over the last year. Some industries, such as food services, doing slightly better, but they're still down significantly, while others like air transportation would be down 80% or more. So the impact. The value of the actions taken by the insurance industry to provide relief to personal and business consumers during the pandemic has been quite significant. It's unparalleled in the financial services sector and amounts to over 2.4 billion in reduced costs and returns to business owners and individuals. The insurance industry is one of the only industries that are actively putting money back into the pockets of consumers. We've done that in a variety of different ways, and I suspect that we will continue to look for new ways to do that. But we are going to try and do even more to help Canadian businesses over the next coming months. So what is some of that support? To weather the storm that we're in, and hopefully it will be shorter lived than longer lived, though I suspect that COVID-19 will be with us for quite some time, if not forever. Hopefully, as vaccines are distributed and new science comes to light, we will find far better ways to manage the pandemic. But IBC and our member companies who make up the Insurance Bureau of Canada have implemented a number of comprehensive action plans to support commercial clients and business owners. This work started before the pandemic, when we started seeing the market harden in 2019. It was affecting specifically at that time condominium corporations. After the pandemic became a worldwide affair, it certainly spread to all of other industries as well. Some of the hardest hit have likely been commercial trucking, the tourism and hospitality sector, and of course, food service industries. So I'll just go through some of the support that we're offering. So in early 2020, IBC launched a national task force on commercial insurance that brought insurers and their customers together to discuss the challenges in the market and develop solutions. We held roundtable discussions across the country with condominium stakeholders, the Canadian trucking industry, not-for-profit sector, and the hospitality industry, including tourism. And I know that Corinne participated in that discussion when we had that, and I think some of your board members may have as well. IBC established a commercial support team to meet with businesses and organizations to understand specific issues and to work with members who would be your insurers to find some solutions. The National Task Force is working on a final report outlining public policy recommendations for specific sectors discussed throughout the roundtable discussions, and that will be published later in April of this year, so that should be coming soon. So IBC has also invested in additional experts and trained risk managers in challenged jurisdictions to work directly with the broker of record and provide commercial clients with the information and insight they need to find affordable insurance products. We set up a dedicated commercial helpline to assist businesses and customers in understanding the market dynamics and their insurance options. And we're working closely with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business and many other associations across the country to triage sector-specific issues as they arise. IBC has also increased public awareness campaigns and education, including a dedicated business website, so businesses and organizations are equipped with the essential information on risk management strategies and can access detailed information about current market conditions and potential public policy options. Today's webinar is another example of how we're trying to reach out so that not only associations, but the direct businesses understand what's going on in the market, but also how they can get help. So IBC's risk management services. So the next few slides, what we're going to go through is hopefully to give you some tips on how you can help your own businesses, but also how we can help and how other parts of the insurance industry can help. So IBC has a highly experienced team of risk managers and specializing in identifying risks and recommending preventative measures to minimize risks. They primarily deal with your broker of record or your insurance agent, but they will work closely with all those involved to try and come up with solutions. IBC's risk management service does not come with a one-size-fits-all approach. Every one of you has a very different and unique business. You have unique needs, you have unique risks. And so what we try and do is to identify the pinch points in your operations that may be leading to higher insurance premiums and try and mitigate those as best possible. They'll also review current policy and provide suggestions on how you and your broker or agent can enhance your insurance placement goals. There's a 1-844 number here or a 1-800 number here. Feel free to write that down. It'll be up again later. But that is our business or insurance helpline that you can call and ask questions. You can also reach out directly to me or through Corinne if you like. And so just a quick video here before I get into some more risk management. And this is a good point probably to plug the businessinsurancehelp.ca website. This is the business specific website I referred to earlier that IBC runs with our members. You can write that down and I can share it later through Corinne if you'd like. But businessinsurancehelp.ca is a place that you can go to find some tips, to find some information, but also to find some help if you need. And so we are seeing some success. To date, we've had more than 1,600 calls to our insurance helpline, and IBC through our insurers have helped more than 150 businesses across Canada find insurance coverage through our risk manager and industry partnerships. Just as an example, there's a seasonal not-for-profit club in Ontario that caters to families and is operated by volunteers. The organization was actually declined coverage from its previous insurer due to a change in market appetite. But IBC's risk manager worked closely with the broker and found coverage actually through the regular market. Another hotel in Regina was unable to find insurance after shopping its policy to a number of different brokers and insurers. The business offers off sales of liquor, as well as a pub, a restaurant, a pool facility. IBC's risk manager worked with a number of brokers that were involved in trying to place the policy and were able to find coverage for the business in the regular market at a nominal increase from the previous year. So risk management, some tips and strategies to consider with your insurance representative. And these are topics that you'll want to talk about with your broker or agent, depending on who you deal with. They're not necessarily things, there are lots of things you can do on your own to manage risk within your own business. But when it comes to managing the risk at your business and ensuring that it translates into your policy and premiums, you want to make sure that you're working very closely with your broker. Some of the things that we have seen in the last number of months and year is to look at the feasibility of separating low and high risk operations into different corporate entities to access better coverage. In certain cases, that has meant different businesses across the country have separated restaurants and pubs or patio areas where liquor sales are involved to try and segregate certain risks that may not exist within the restaurant but may exist on the patio. And we found some success in doing that. One of the biggest points here is working with individual business owners or operators and ensuring that their insurance underwriter has a strong and accurate understanding of your business, not just the business sector that you're in, but of your specific business, including any actions that you have taken to mitigate risks and address any past claims. We see a lot of water damage claims come in. These, of course, would be things outside of, slips and falls, liquor-related incidents or risk. A lot of the commercial customers that we deal with have water-related claims. And so if you work closely with your insurance representative in identifying how you may have mitigated the risk of that going forward, you can usually find some potential benefit there. That could be burst pipes, that could be a backup backflow valve installed, that can be moving certain items of your business away from a flood-prone area. There's a number of different things you can do here, but I guess the underlying message there is to make sure that your broker and the person underwriting it with the company understands your specific needs. The other thing you can do, potentially updating your business interruption limits to reflect the adverse effects of the pandemic. Every business has different types of interruption clauses. Some have none, some have some have many, depending on the size of your business. But it's important to talk to your broker about what those interruption clauses look like and how they affect your premiums. Showing the insurance underwriter how your business model may have pivoted from the prior year, and ensuring that the websites and social media reflect the new business model. We have had a number of different companies and businesses that have come to us looking for help over the last year that have changed the type of business that they're in, and it's important to let your insurer know that. Aside from the obvious reasons of making sure that your policy still reflects the type of your business that you're in, but it also may have changed your overall risk profile to the positive. And then updating revenues of liquor sales on insurance applications for the current COVID-19 period in lieu of restating last year's figures or being optimistic. If you're seeing a significant and sustained decrease in sales, it's probably a good time to go through that with your insurance agent or broker to make sure that they understand that. So risk management continued here. Managing risk, of course, everybody knows this, but it's an essential part of business, whether you're large or small. You can help control the costs of your insurance premiums and improve your business operations by adopting risk management strategies. Some of the steps that you take today can have long-term savings that can last far beyond what the current pandemic might. The most important way to start this process is to work with a commercial insurance agent or broker who knows your type of business and is willing to invest the time and effort to understand your specific needs. A proactive insurance agent or broker is a valuable asset to your company, and I can't really state that enough. it is critical that the person selling you a policy understands what your business looks like and how it operates on a day-to-day basis. Risk management strategies can be varied depending on your type of business. And when you're planning your insurance coverage, an important step to take with the help of your insurance representative is to identify those potential losses that could critically threaten your business and insure against them. Ask the questions about everything you think could happen to your business and how your insurance coverage would respond. You can help protect your property from loss and help reduce insurance costs by taking a few positive steps on your own to discourage burglars, shoplifters, in-house water damage risks, vandals, and these all contribute to your overall premiums. Investing in loss prevention often results in lower insurance premiums. So what business owners can do. This isn't a challenge that can be successfully confronted by any one player. And as I said at the start of this, there are no silver bullets to the current hard insurance market. However, when businesses and insurers work together, there are many avenues that we have found a lot of success in. For business owners, there are steps that can be taken to reduce the risk profile. Working with your insurance representative to make sure that you have the right coverage for your needs. I really can't stress the importance of making sure that your broker understands your business, but also the insurer that they are selling the policy for. Develop a robust risk management strategy and make sure your broker and insurer know you have one. And I would note that for the majority of businesses, coverage is still available. Insurance is a highly competitive industry, but it's important to shop around. And I'll probably repeat myself when I say this, and I won't make the presentation last incredibly longer, but not all brokers sell for all insurers. And so I know as a maritimer and as somebody who has a broker, sometimes we find businesses and individuals that have been with brokers for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And so it's not always the easiest conversation to have when I suggest that it's time to shop around, but in certain cases, it may be the best opportunity for your business. Like I said, not every broker sells for every insurer, and every insurer has different expertise when it comes to underwriting risk. So if you do shop around, you may find that different insurers have a different appetite, but also have different expertise in writing risks that pertain to your specific business, and you may find better rates out there. It's not always an easy conversation to have here in the Maritimes. If you've been with a broker for 5, 10, or 30 years, that you are looking around for different coverage, but you certainly have to make the best decision that is for your business. So remember, managing your risk, as we've already discussed, and we can't stress this enough, if you run a high-risk business or have had numerous claims, your business is going to have to try and find a way to limit that risk profile. Talking with your broker or insurance representative, make sure they understand your business. If they don't, shop the market. And like I said before, I know that sometimes these are difficult conversations to have here in Atlantic Canada. Many of us have been with our insurance brokers for many, many years, but different brokers sell for different insurers, and different insurers have different appetites and different expertise and are able to underwrite different types of businesses better. If that doesn't work, then ask for help, and that's what we're here for. We have our business insurance website. We have our business insurance phone number that I had up earlier, and we can share those again later. But if you're still finding that the market is difficult to place your business, or that you're seeing exponential increases in premiums, there are ways that hopefully we can work with you and your representative to find solutions. Finally, in this presentation what governments can do, because of course governments do have a role in the overall market. We are a highly regulated industry in Canada, in PEI, in New Brunswick, in Nova Scotia, everywhere. And we do feel that governments have a role to play in finding solutions, especially temporarily, while this pandemic continues. One of the things that we have been talking to governments about is a limited immunity provisions, either in law or as part of emergency orders. And what limited liability immunity reforms do to support business in the midst of undertaking the substantial challenges of attempting to recover from the impacts of the pandemic, but also while ensuring sufficient consumer protection. In short, what we have seen is a number of businesses over the last year have switched or pivoted from their regular business model. And we also see businesses across the country following every emergency order operational plan to a T. And what we want to make sure is that businesses aren't being targeted by frivolous or vexatious lawsuits when it comes to the pandemic. Some businesses have switched to making masks. Some businesses have switched to making garments or hand sanitizers. Other businesses are running their normal course, whether it's a restaurant or a bar, but they are following the COVID-19 guidelines to a T. And one of the things that we have been pointing out to governments is that, you know, there are some risks that are still involved for people that may unfortunately want to take advantage of that. If I go into a restaurant that is following every guideline, following all the rules, and I contract COVID-19, I shouldn't be able to launch a massive lawsuit against that establishment simply seeking money. Limited liability provisions don't eliminate anyone's right to sue or to pursue legal action, but they will protect business owners from frivolous lawsuits. A few areas where these have been enacted across the country so far. New Brunswick has made it a part of their emergency order so that businesses that are operating within the essential services realm are protected during the emergency order period. Ontario has taken a slightly larger move forward. They've put it into law. British Columbia is similar. And Saskatchewan is going through a process right now where that is before the legislature. Nova Scotia has shown some interest here as well. And I think that we'll see more provinces do that as governments work to try and open up the economies in every way they can, and limiting that liability to business owners that are doing everything that they're supposed to be doing, we feel is one of the ways that they can do that. So I guess in closing, before we get to questions and comments that you might have for me, the challenge in Canada's commercial insurance market will not end overnight. The impacts of COVID-19 on businesses and the increasing cost of service to service weather events and natural disasters remain difficult both to forecast, but we have seen, especially the weather side of claims, increasing steadily. I could do a whole other presentation on climate change and the cost that has had on businesses and insurance. And if you'd like me to at some point, we'd certainly be welcome to come back and do that. But for the foreseeable future, it is going to put a greater pressure on insurers, brokers, and commercial clients. Canada's insurers stand with our business customers, and we believe that by working together with government and partners, we can meet and overcome the challenges that we're facing today within the commercial insurance market. I would encourage anybody on the line now and within your membership, Corinne, experiencing challenges and securing insurance to use the resources we've established to help. Please reach out to us at the businessinsurancehelp.ca website and the hotline, which I can share again after. But overall, we are here to help. We know that this is a difficult time, and hopefully we can find some solutions to weather the storm. So with that, I think I can stop sharing my screen. And if you'd like, I can take any questions you might have at this point.
That's great. Thank you, Graham. I did put in the chat the link to the Deloitte report, as well as the website for business insurance help for those of you who are looking for that. Did anyone have any questions? I saw there was some comments in the chat room around the business interruption coverage, but I'm not sure if there was any questions for Graham.
Sure.
Sorry. Hi, it's Jamie from Island Stoneware. My question was that I put into the chat was I was curious to know if anybody on the line was actually able to claim business interruption insurance, because we were told that the pandemic was actually excluded as a reason for triggering the interruption insurance. So I don't know if anybody else was here had it, or where we would go to get insurance that actually could cover that.
No, it's a fair point. I don't know what other folks on the call here have experienced. Pandemics are generally not or never included in business interruption clauses. That said, and I'm going to take a step back here, of course, because I don't know what your specific coverage looks like, nor your insurer, but I will say that there are a number of legal cases happening across Canada and across the US and across the world right now pertaining to that. I don't know how those will shake out. However, historically speaking, pandemics have been excluded clauses in almost every business interruption policy. That's not a great answer if you're hoping to get that, and I would certainly say continue working with your insurer if it's something that you have been experiencing. But I would also say that over the next number of months, maybe years, we'll see how some of those end up in courts as well.
Well, my question was really prompted by the fact that you indicated in your presentation we may want to consider increasing business interruption limits due to the pandemic. So I wondered if there's actually anybody that's doing that, and like why it's there if they aren't.
Yeah, no, and I think I know what you're saying, but I guess specific to your policy, I would go back and see what that business interruption clause included or didn't include, and if you excluded more items from the business interruption insurance clause, you may find you can get a better rate. Whereas if you increase the business interruption clauses in your policy, you may find that your rates are higher. Now, specifically as it relates to COVID-19 or a global pandemic, you may find that nobody will cover that, which is what we have seen in many different areas. But the business interruption side of things is something that you may want to look
at. Judy McDonald here. I'm just wondering if, given the reduction in business and therefore the well, the way I see it, I'm in the business of accommodation, and when we don't have as many guests, we don't have as high a risk. I heard one time on Maritime Noon, somebody from the Insurance Association talking about a reduction in car insurance because you're not driving so much. Is it possible that if you don't have as much business and you don't have as many people coming through your property, that you're not you're not as great a risk?
It is possible, and I think I had a bullet on that back a number of slides ago, but it may be something that you want to go back to your broker or your agent and discuss. If your business is down 80%, and that means, I don't know the business that you're in, but if that means that liquor sales are down and food sales are down and foot traffic is down in your business, that may be something that you want your broker to know. Likewise, if it increased or got back to normal, you might want to let them know that as well. But I would agree that it's absolutely something that you'll want to talk with your broker about. Just for your point, people are driving less, and a number of different insurers have reflected that in rates, either through rebates or rating policies. But if your business is seeing a significant decline in traffic, it's something that you're going to want to let your broker know.
Thank you.
Because if you're paying, I guess just to continue on that, if you're paying based on last year's, just as an example, liquor sales, if you're doing an 80-20 liquor and food breakdown, and this year you're seeing that those volumes are significantly lower, that is something that may affect it.
Well, it occurred to me that it seems like when, that you're at greater risk when your business is in full production, and we had a significant downturn, and yet our insurance costs are, it's going to be hard to pay those costs, and we have to have insurance, and it's very, very expensive, and it's probably one of our biggest bills that we have to pay every year, that and property taxes, with, you pay those before you open your doors, and they're very high.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. It's Lisa from Briarwood. I just wondered if anybody received a rebate check from their insurance company. I know somebody that did earlier this year, and just wondered if anybody had received that good news in the mail.
Yes, I did receive a rebate. Totally
Very-
unexpected. Totally unexpected.
Yeah, that's great mail to get.
Yeah, totally. It was just a surprise. Arrived
Yeah.
in the mail.
Good. I don't know how it was calculated, but got to be grateful for everything, I guess.
Well, exactly.
And different insurers have handled that in different ways. Some have literally mailed out checks, which is certainly a lovely surprise to get. Others have prorated premiums. Others are offering, sort of go forward discounts. But it is important to let your insurer, your agent know what's going on in your business. It's not business as usual right now. So make sure that your broker knows. But it's good to hear that is reaching some people's mailboxes as well.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, I don't know if you can answer this question. Do you think premiums will increase this year when we all go through the renewal process? Or do you think that at least the pandemic will be on our side in this case?
Yeah,
Okay.
If I had if I had to give you my honest answer, I would say that I would be prepared for that, but I would also make sure that I was working with my broker or agent so that they understood what's going on. As Judy pointed out, that if business is down 60%, you may want your policy to reflect that. But I would say that overall, we have been seeing steady increases. Different parts of the country, I seem to be, and I guess this isn't a huge surprise, but experiencing the pandemic in different ways. In larger city centers, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, we've seen some very sort of terrifying increases, but we've been able to work with a lot of those businesses and insurers to try and find some solutions. Here in Atlantic Canada, the increase has appeared, I guess, at the surface to be a bit more steady than spikes, but I don't want to try and crystal ball what your policies might or your premiums might look like, but I guess I would say overall we have seen generally increases.
Mm-hmm.
I just have one more question, if that's okay. Do you,
Sure.
On top of what you've done in your presentation, any further recommendations when we, want to go out there and do some further shopping and see if we can get a better rate or better service type thing. Because it is a lengthy, long
Yes,
process
it is.
and it's time, right, as well. So just wondered if you had any hints there, and I mean, you know, what could make that easier?
Yeah, and I feel exactly where you're coming from here. You know, I don't own my own business, but I do have home and auto insurance, and even shopping those markets, that can be painful at times because, of course, they want every detail imaginable. And you know, if it
Yeah.
takes me 3 hours, then it's going to take a business 2 days, and those are 2 days that you could be doing other things. So I appreciate what you're saying. I guess what I would say is that it may be one of those things that you want to sort of do a bit of a tertiary scan of the market. You can talk to, you know, a number of different brokers without diving too deeply into your specific business. I would say that in Prince Edward Island, many of the brokers or agents that are around you are probably going to be somewhat familiar. And they may not know that you're shopping, so they may not that you are a customer that is interested in leaving perhaps where you currently are. So I guess on the surface, you can go around to some of the different businesses and say, you know, look, this is my current situation. I'm interested in examining what might be available elsewhere. You know, do you currently have customers that are in my line of business? You know, and even, you know, if you gave them a ballpark figure of what you're currently paying, they might be able to say, yeah, I think we can probably find something better than that. Or they might say, you know, look, our clients have been feeling this pressure as well, and they haven't found any better solutions. So I completely hear you, Lisa. I know that it is a lengthy process. For me to just suggest to shop the market, it's not quite like going on Amazon and looking for a new pot for the kitchen. It takes time. But
I guess that's my problem. Amazon is so much easier.
Yeah. But you know, in the long run, as a business cost, you may find the time pays dividends over the long run.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Judy McDonald, I just wanted to mention that you know, there is supposed to be an annual review with your broker each year with, you know, and you should take advantage of that because, you know, I know myself, sometimes I'm just, it kind of is something that gets ignored. And last year I went through item by item and decided the things that I could do without. And one of the things that I find is that it's very difficult to get an insurance policy, a commercial insurance policy that matches the size of like a business. And like we're a small business, and like we have deductibles of 25,000, you know, for heating systems, where a whole new heating system would be less than that for us, if you know what I mean. So it's too bad that there aren't brokers out there, or I mean companies, insurance companies rather, not the brokers, that aren't developing or specializing in small businesses, which we have a lot of in Atlantic Canada, and in particular in Prince Edward Island. Because I think when you really take a good hard look at them, and you know, insurance policies are hard to understand at the best of times for the ordinary layperson. They are not really all that suitable to small business. Like, I'm not the home and grand, and like when I look at you know, like this deduction for new heating or cooling system, that's the scale they're really starting at, and it's not suitable. And I think that's often why, in some ways, our policy, you know, our cost of our policies are so expensive. And like, I'm paying a lot of money for insurance, and it's you know, that's what adds to the cost of just keeping our doors open.
No, I agree completely with you. I don't know if I have a great answer for that, but your point is certainly well taken. I guess, you know, what I would say, you know, and then look, deductibles are always a way. and they tend to be kind of the low hanging fruit when it's, you know, if you've got a high premium and you want to sort of immediately reduce your rates, increasing your deductible is always an easy way to do that. But as you point out, increasing your deductible, you know, in the case of a heating system, as you're talking about, that is beyond the cost of a new heating system itself, then, you know, you start to wonder about the economics of it.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, without knowing the situation specifically, you know, that may be something that your current broker or your current underwriter at the insurer needs to know more about. I don't know what type.
I mean, I think the company that I'm with Intact, and I think it's one of the better companies.
It's certainly one of the larger ones, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm about having a good. And the other thing that I pay particular attention to is risk management, because you don't want to be making claims when you don't need to. And that means managing your property and knowing if you've got a water problem, how do you fix that? You don't want every year to be going back with a water problem and, you know, and raising your rates. And that actually, the experience of everybody is what raises the rates for insurance, right? If we're not careful enough, we're raising the rates of insurance generally because we're not being careful enough.
Look, I mean, you probably said it better than I did, but you're absolutely right. And we see that, like just as a specific example, I'm not sure what our timeline is here, so I don't want to yammer on, but you know, we saw that particularly before the current hard market that we're in sort of started affecting, you know, the global business. We were seeing it particularly within the condo sphere. Condo corporations are independent corporations managed by the boards, usually people who live there. But we saw it creeping up in Alberta and in Vancouver particularly, where the condo corporations weren't managing their buildings very well. And so they were making, you know, every time a pipe burst, they were making a claim.
Yeah.
And so what we saw over time is that, you know, these claims were increasing, and then a major event happened, like the wildfires in Alberta, where a number of condominiums were actually wiped out, unfortunately. And so that you have this increasing claim pressure, and then all of a sudden this catastrophic event, and then insurers sort of tighten up and they say, you know, we're not interested in that kind of a market, and if we are, we're going to spread it over all of you that are here, and it's going to be, you know, a 300% increase for everyone. And so we saw, we literally saw some spikes like that, and we tried to work with the insurers through some of those, but the risk management side of things, we just can't sort of, you know, talk about enough. If you've got old heating or water systems, if you've got intrusions that have happened before previously, making sure that those don't get to a point where the cost is, you know, so great that you don't want to cover it and you want to make a claim about it. You know, getting out ahead of those things is so critical.
Yeah.
I guess that's my way of agreeing with what you're saying, Judy, but you're bang on, because it does, you know, one major claim, you know, it'll affect your rates clearly, but it also affects the overall appetite in that market, especially if it's something like a flood, which of course is beyond most people's control, but or fire. But when it's a certain sector of business, especially in a certain geographic region, it can have big impacts.
Yeah. Okay.
Were there any other questions for Graham before we sign out? It's a quiet group.
That's okay. It's okay. And like I say, we're always here. If you think of something later, you can either, you know, reach out through Corinne or directly to the business help line, where you'll find far more knowledgeable people than me at the ready. But we are here to help, and I know it's a tough time for especially this sector. So hopefully we can get through the next couple of months and start to see some sunlight at the end of this tunnel.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Graham, on behalf of TIPI and all the participants here today. I think this was a lot of valuable information. Just a reminder to everyone, if you are looking for the recording, we will have that posted on our website shortly. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Graham anytime.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Have a great